Hello and welcome to another episode of SEO Fairy Tales. With me today is Bartosz Goralevich. Did I not butcher your name this time?
You're better every time.
I keep getting better. Who is CEO at Onely and recently became a Texan by choice and is now learning to barbecue properly to blend in with the neighbors, aren't you?
I am. The smells every evening are just overwhelming, so...
I can imagine. Another thing that might be overwhelming for people is JavaScript SEO, right?
It might.
Ooh. So I know that you have been into JavaScript SEO quite a bit, but I don't actually know the origin story of that. And I think it's linked to an interesting SEO case that you might want to talk to me about, no?
In a way, Martin, that's a story that got us together.
Oh,
for the
okay.
First time.
Right, yeah, there has been exchanges beforehand, yeah.
So I thought like this would be a cool kind of origin story episode.
All right,
and
settling in.
So I picked this story because, first of all, it got me into JavaScript, which is not something that you get in by choice most often.
Hey, whoa, how dare you? So like JavaScript is amazing.
JavaScript
right?
SEO maybe.
Okay, maybe. Okay.
Maybe JavaScript
okay,
SEO.
I'll give you that.
Maybe not in 2015 or 16.
All right. Yeah,
setting a scene back to back then.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
In a galaxy far, far away. No, that's the difference.
I had to do a quick math 7 years ago.
Ish.
Ish. We had a client. She came to us. She was a founder of this very kind of modern fast startup in the fashion space. And
fashion.
Yeah, and I think I haven't asked, but I think she was very innovative, judging by the choice of technologies and people around. And she had a very dynamic team of developers in some of the modern frameworks back then. And it seemed like a very small, exciting project.
It sounds exciting, yeah.
And it was like, maybe it's not the biggest client, maybe it's not the biggest case.
If it's an interesting one, whatever. Yeah.
But the vibe was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like one of those...
It felt right at the time. Yeah.
You would hop on Hangouts and you would feel like, we get along well.
Nice. Okay.
We were fairly, I could even say, cocky about the project. It seemed like very easy at that time, like just doing a bit of like information architecture, like polishing the website, web performance, things like that.
How hard can it be? Web performance, one of the easiest topics out there.
It was just a brand new website, so it you didn't have all of those.
Greenfield projects are fantastic, yes. So how did that go?
I'm not sure if you're ironic or not, but yeah. So basically, we started. Everything was going well. We relaunched the website after a few months, I don't remember exactly, months of work. So some of the implementations are done and nothing, like crickets. After 2 months, we're getting 700 visits per month to a startup that got like quite a lot of investing. You know what I mean?
The metrics are not there.
It got fairly awkward throughout the calls, and there was a lot of people advising her, like saying like, this is a brand new website, you just bought the .com domain with history, obviously. I don't think it's possible to find one without one.
Probably.
And people like, you need links, you need content, you need like all of these aspects. Which is true.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
For most websites, you can say that. But I was like, I wasn't very proud of the 700 visits.
Which is reasonable, I guess.
I took it too hard, and I was like looking for clues. I was looking for something that would, make it pop. Something that would, you know yourself, probably knowing you, Martin, that sometimes you quickly become obsessed with something when something just doesn't add up for you.
Yeah. Then it's a rabbit hole and you have to go down.
It's
all right.
I went very deep into that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Literally, and I started looking into like technologies. Everything was there, so I went into Google Search Console, so your tool, and I used like Fetch as Googlebot. It's working. Everything was okay. And to be honest, I have no clue how I got to this point. I try to think that I was very logical and assume that because of the tech-savvy developers and things like that.
Should be fine. Tech side should be fine. It's all very innovative.
And I spotted the problem of like this rotating wheel that would show up when the website loading, so you hide all the messy things in the back. That's how the internet was working in 2015, people.
True, yeah. I mean, still some pages do that today, so yeah.
I haven't seen one in a while, but yeah. And it was obviously an open library, so it was a library, a script, whatever. It was the code was used on thousands of different websites. And I was like, what if I slow down the Chrome as much as possible? And then I saw that the rotating wheel, when it shows up, not all of the code is sent to the browser.
Oh.
I was like, it works well in Fetch as Googlebot back in 2015. Now it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And I started looking for problems around that. It was AngularJS. I went to the dev team. I was talking to them and say like, maybe this is a problem. And you can imagine what I heard back then. It was as close to as I would state that the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
And just cancel all the flights.
I mean, after all, AngularJS is a thing that Google built.
That's what I heard.
It means nothing to search, but sure, yeah.
That's what I heard. And they were very hesitant to even try it because I don't remember. I'm assuming something didn't look very well when the website was loading. But after like a little bit back and forward, they kind of bought into this idea, especially that they became quite desperate for traffic with a large team. Yeah. Long story short, after doing that, within days, literally days, the traffic went up.
When you say doing that, what is that?
I skipped a few steps.
Let's dig into these steps.
So we disabled the wheel completely. So we just took out
no more loading spinner.
The code or that was like a separate element. I'm not a front-end dev, especially in Angular, but basically removed that part of all the dependencies.
Yeah.
And we saw a huge uptick in traffic within days. I don't remember the numbers, but it was significant enough that our
orders of magnitudes basically suddenly.
Our calls were not awkward. Like that's the specific metric of how I describe the volume of traffic. So there was some. But I wasn't happy, and I'm assuming you know why.
Yeah, because it feels like magic, right? It's like smoke and mirrors.
It shouldn't have worked.
Exactly. This should not be. Why? What is happening here? So you wanted to look behind the curtain, behind the spinning wheel, to find out what's happening. So what did you do then?
I don't remember a lot of details because I was in the rabbit hole still. The success didn't really help. I think it even pushed me further into that.
Because it's frustrating to have something like, it's bad to have something not working and not knowing why, but that's kind of like part of the journey. Whereas if it works and you don't know why, it's scary and weird, right? It's scary because you're like,
especially if this is your,
what if I anger the gods again?
Yeah, especially if this is your
livelihood,
daily job, and you're an agency and we are so innovative, we believe like we can solve all of the problems.
Exactly, and now you have found one that you solved, but you don't understand why
really
or
solve
how.
It. That's
the thing, exactly. You made it go away-ish, but you don't know why. So, okay, so where did you go then? What did you do?
I went to Tomek, our R&D.
Awesome, yeah.
So our head of research and development, and we went into that rabbit hole together, which in retrospect wasn't the best idea. It took us a while. Anyhow, we've built a number of experiments.
Yeah.
We've built multiple experiments, but one did stick. I believe it was due to a fancy graphic that was easy to follow.
And if you say like you build experiments, what would these experiments look like?
Yeah.
How did you? Okay.
I'm glad you asked. I didn't know how deep into the woods we can get.
I wanna like.
I love it. So it was very simple. So we had JS SEO.expert, so JavaScript SEO.expert, basically a free domain that wasn't very expensive, and we've built every single subpage in different technologies.
Oh, so you could see which ones get picked up and which ones work and which ones don't.
I think the websites should still work. if there's something weird going on, it's Tomek and his experiments. But the website should still be up.
All
with
right.
probably some modifications. Anyhow, there was like a placeholder of like a text for each subpage in bare HTML, a red frame, and everything within the red frame was JavaScript dependent.
Generated, yeah.
So you had to go through JavaScript and render that into HTML
Yes.
to see the content.
Yeah.
And at the very end, there was a link within that red frame. So we would look into server logs and see if Google fell into the honeypot.
Oh, okay. So when you say honeypot, basically like the link is only injected with JavaScript and it points to a thing that hasn't been pointed out anywhere. So it's the only place we can find out about this specific URL is in the JavaScript generated link. So you know that if this page gets accessed by a Google bot, the link has been rendered, has been seen, has been understood, and is now being crawled. Okay, got it. Okay, interesting. Wow.
It was, now it might seem like super basic.
But come on, you were
worked.
probably one of the first people to do that.
It worked.
Yes.
We've repeated multiple different experiments. And then, after all that, we said, okay, we know more. And throughout that process, I've reached out to a lot of your colleagues, including Ilya Grigorik. Sorry, Ilya, if you're ever watching this, for breaching your personal emails and things like that. We've been deep in the rabbit hole with Tomek, and nobody could explain what's happening. So at some point, we're like, this is weird. And the most important thing I should have mentioned before, back then, Google's documentation stated that Google renders JavaScript just like any modern browser. So we're like looking into that, and I just don't take it as blaming anyone. It was just very early days of JavaScript SEO.
And the other thing is, I think like generally that is not wrong. It's just an oversimplification as usual. We have to balance out how much into detail do we go and like where do we end up. And I see where this is.
I like to believe that back then it was pre-Martin times. Very dark times in dark times in technical SEO. It was pre-Martin times. I believe maybe this slipped through the cracks, maybe because it was very fresh with the new frameworks.
It's probably like someone got very excited that we now run JavaScript like a normal modern browser would and ignored the fact that there are caveats.
And what's actually, just to excuse Google just a tiny bit, probably I'm gonna make some enemies with that, but just to excuse you a bit, it was fairly simple to miss because our experiment did show that you as the only back then search engine render JavaScript, but just not all of the frameworks. So I'm assuming there were some kinks that needed to be ironed out, still are, but obviously this is difficult.
Yeah.
Long story short, we knew like what's up at that point.
Okay.
And we came back to the client.
Right. So what exactly was happening there?
We came back to the client saying some of your content still depends on this new modern technology called JavaScript, AngularJS, and we want it out as an experiment. And it didn't land well. I coming in saying rewrite that 9 months of work.
I was about to say so we did all the work. We are very happy with what we got from the user's perspective, and now a random person over video call tells me burn it all to the ground and build it again. I'd probably murder you.
And just to add a little bit of drama to that, I should actually
because that's not enough drama yet. All right, okay.
I should actually lead with that. This was all happening in Poland, so it wasn't a very modern market where technical SEO would be appreciated that much. Everyone was really focusing on backlinks back then, and I was this kind of hipster guy who was like, use this approach and just stop building links. I was really a flat earther of the community back then. It wasn't easy. Anyhow, after that call, we pushed them. We pushed them very high. They would ask what can we gain with that? We couldn't promise them anything. It was like, it's gonna be better, but we have no
Maybe.
idea. No documentation, no case studies, no like nothing
okay.
to fall back on. But I was like, I really want you to do it because I know it's gonna bring you some kind of ROI.
Yes.
But also, I want to see the result. So long story short, we've pushed them. We've pushed them. That's actually the best word to use it, because we kind of pushed them into doing it. It took them a while. I don't want to tell you that it was like 2 weeks later. I'm assuming like 7 months. I don't
took
like.
A while,
It was a while, and it was a slow process of just removing some of the dependencies. It took them a while. They relaunched the website. We helped them with a migration to a new technology. Nothing happens.
No.
And this was like the awkwardness from the first calls
was back.
Like was kind of
twice.
Yeah, squared or whatever.
So like it went up and it went down and it went back up, or
it didn't went down. Just so that's
it stagnated for a while.
That would be. I think this would be the end of our friendship. It just didn't improve that much.
Yeah.
Maybe like 2%, something like that. And we were looking heavily into like server logs. We saw that you crawl them and you visit, and we saw that Google is indexing some of the like H1s you didn't index before, some of the missing elements of like comments, things like that. So we saw that it's working, but it took, I don't know, like 3-6 months, something like that, few months for this change to be reflected fully in Google. And that
crawl
was
frequency.
That was really rough. I'm assuming it's not. You crawled the website fairly quickly. Like I think you recrawled the whole website within. We don't know which elements, but we're looking at server logs fairly quickly. It wasn't a huge website. It was like, let's say 50, 100,000 URLs.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't enormous, but it just took a while. But basically, with the communication, with how we approach them. At some point, and I think this is the biggest success we had with them, we got them into this rabbit hole of experimenting.
With you, we want to know.
Yeah, and they at some point they were like, we don't care about, like, let's just look into it like a bit more. We're gonna explain that to investors at some point. But that was quite interesting.
Jesus. And did you eventually see more traffic coming in?
So that's unfortunately the end of the story with the website. They still are growing.
Yeah,
I think I've got some of the charts in the notes to this video, so we can show them. They're still growing. They're doing very well. We're very friendly with them.
Good.
They know that they're a part of something that was quite important, but until this day, in our team, this is something we've built into the culture, into the core values of the company. Like, I think with the wealth of knowledge we have right now, because as technical SEOs, all it takes nowadays in 2022 is like tweet Martin, tweet John, and we can, find out quite a bit. And we're always gonna be looking, checking back, and there are some things yourself we don't fully agree on. Probably it's gonna be like that, and it's healthy in this way.
Yeah.
But we still do that. We still experiment quite a bit. We still have a new client. Something doesn't work as it should, and I think this curiosity, this kind of, maybe it's not even curiosity, but it's like being very stubborn when you believe in data.
Yes.
Because technical SEO is data driven. It's not about I believe.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
works like this.
You should try it out. And I think this is like the key takeaway from your story, really, is if you're not sure what you're seeing or why you're seeing what you're seeing, experiment.
Exactly.
And I find it very sad that I don't see many people experimenting. It's easy to, I did an experiment once. Oh God, I'm not sure if I should even, because I remember when I started my career, a lot of people were, not just you, other people as well, came to me saying like, it takes ages for JavaScript to be picked up. I don't know what's happening. So I built 2 identical websites. One was a fake photography agency, like a photographer specializing in dog photography. So I had one website built with HTML, all about dog photography.
Fake.
Then I had a fake yeah, come on. Like, I'm not going to talk about my side hustles. Then I had a fake photographer that was specializing in cat photography.
Okay.
And that website was all built with JavaScript frameworks. Everything was dynamically injected. Everything was coming from an API. And I was very surprised to see that A, both were picked up equally quickly, and B, actually the link discovery, so like the spreading throughout the site in terms of when pages were crawled, subpages were crawled, that was a lot faster on the HTML website than it was on the JavaScript-driven website. But the JavaScript-driven website usually got indexed quicker. And I was like, what? And then I figured out, okay, so there's like processes running in parallel. How can we best explain that? And that a lot of the documentation improvements have been based on that and other data that I found. But
from this
you
experiment.
you have to build experiments.
We still do. Like, this is so easy and so cheap, by the way.
And so
like,
many people don't do it.
It's just so very simple. And with ours, we didn't even create a copy. We used, there was like this weird software, content machine,
something that generates
like something content. That generates like machine learning. There was like an article about that on like Bloomberg or something like that. And I was like, I'm gonna use it.
Let's
for
try
this
it.
Experiment.
It doesn't have to be good. It's just an experiment. If it burns and crashes, doesn't matter. It's an experiment.
And I think this is an important thing. What you said. For every single experiment we publish, there are like 20 or 50 or more that we don't,
because they didn't work.
They're embarrassing sometimes.
Yeah,
but
and
we
it's
tried.
okay.
Like,
exactly. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
have to be good. Yeah.
If someone finds them. Like, you might link out from JavaScript JS SEO.expert to some weird places. That's okay as well. We're open to collaborating to do that. Like, but long story short, what I've learned with that and what we've built into, if you feel like this should work, this should be like the data tells you something, and everyone else is like advising you something that's somehow
just buy links. Like, no.
And you need to know your priorities. This is what I'm trying to get. I'm sorry, this is kind of a lot of things, a lot of thoughts going through my head, but just
every conversation
we had was like that. But basically, if you start with something, it has to be the technical base. You cannot start with links. You cannot start with content. However, they're crucial. I'm not saying like you're gonna rank without those things. You probably won't. But at some point, I wouldn't feel like I'm gonna give the technology side a pass. Like the quality score, the quality, whatever check mark we should start doing at Onely. But basically, I wasn't feeling that this is it. And most of the good things I've learned myself, and I think most of our conversations come from place of deep frustration, of place where we hate at times what we do. I do sometimes, and I'm like so frustrated with it that I'm willing to kind of go into that rabbit hole for a few weeks, maybe be not very social, but solve the problem.
Solves the problem, whatever gets the job done. But that's really an interesting point of view. Yes, you need to experiment. You need to be aware that the technical foundation should be solid, and you just look at the data. Don't listen to what random people on the internet say. Look at the data.
Or Google sometimes.
We are part of the random people on the internet group, so I don't exclude Google from that. So that's a very, very good takeaway. So everyone out there, do build experiments. Very important. Bartosz, it has been such a great pleasure to have you here. Thanks you so much for joining us for this series.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just so happy to see you face to face. Like,
likewise, it has been too long.
Post-COVID, I was like, should I hug you? Should I shake your hand?
If you want to hug me, you can hug me. Come on, give it that. Bring it in.
So nice to meet you again.
So
and thanks so much for inviting me to this. I hope this is going to be helpful. If you struggle with experiments, reach out to me or this guy. He was super helpful when everything went out.
We're doing our best.
We're Martin's patience. Every
public interactions, I'll try my best, okay? But I definitely enjoyed the conversation. You clearly did. I hope that you all enjoyed it too. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Leave us a like and a subscribe to see more content like this. And stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. God, I love it.